Well, hello.
Let's listen.
Either way, I'm so happy if you're there through the magic of this technology that we have today that we're broadcasting in all different social platforms. So whether you're here live or whether you come across this video a little bit later on, or the podcast for that matter, I invite you to engage with me and with us today on the show. Because the more we get to know you, the better we can know what inspires you to move mindfully towards greater fulfillment in your life. And I know that we all want that health and wealth and things like that, but truly our spirit needs fulfillment. So if there's something in this conversation that really resonates with you, be sure to let us know what that is. And somewhere around, up, down, over, there'll be a chat or there'll be a way of communicating with us. And just let us know what you find inspiring. Because the other thing is, we love to answer your questions. So if you have a question, by all means, put a hashtag, one of those crossy things, and the word question into the chat, and we'd love to have you help us shape this program into something that is really most useful for you. And today we're celebrating our winner from last week. I'd like to shout out to Nancy Lewis Hill. She was the winner of the Amazon gift card, and her name was drawn by as one of the people who, at the end of the show, she knew the 5 secret words, and she put them in the chat at the end of the show. And so when we did the draw, she was the winner. So congratulations, Nancy Lewis Hill. Awesome work. And are you feeling lucky today? Is today your turn? Well, if you're listening live today, you're in the right place at the right time because we're running our contest for another amazing Amazon gift card. So all you need to do is simply listen throughout the broadcast, and there'll be 5 secret words. And then at the end of the broadcast, you'll pop all those 5 secret words into the chat when I ask. Don't put them in beforehand because then everyone will know them. And then we'll randomly draw another winner for next week. And this week's winner will be supported by our guest, who will be along in just a few moments. Our guest is, well, I'm not going to tell you what her name is. You'll find out in just a minute. So actually, you've already heard the first word today. The first word, so keep track of this one, is the word magic. As we talked about the magic of technology, which sometimes works perfectly and other times, poof, things just go awry. So we can roll with that though. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, you might be here today because you're being called to a greater sense of self discovery. Like it's time to come home to yourself. You may be tired of thinking like I was. What do I want to be when I grow up? Sometimes I still wonder. Or you might be wondering, is that all there is? Or perhaps you're the kind of person who's given so much to so many for so long that now you're starting to wonder, like, when's it my turn? And you may have just an inner knowing, that inner sense that it's time to find the lightness and the joy that existed before all that heavy, uncomfortable stuff got in your way. Your mission today, should you choose to accept it, is to listen for inspirational ideas, for thoughts and feelings so that you more effectively share your gifts with the world. And don't worry, this often happens naturally as new possibilities and perspectives come into your awareness. And once you're aware, then you can choose to mindfully move forward beyond the edge of fulfillment. So you're listening to The Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN. That's Women for Women Network. And we broadcast Friday live at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And today we have actually we have a second word coming up, so listen carefully, because the topics we talk about really fall into four main areas, and those four main areas are peace, power, passion, and purpose. And when you have all four of those, our guest today is going to talk a little bit more about how we gain those four pillars of fulfillment. And actually, you've heard the second word for today, so you might want to jot this one down. The second word is passion. So I believe that we're all born fully equipped. All of our wants, our needs, our desires are tied to what it is that we are here to do in this life. And through no fault of our own, some of us have simply lost sight or lost connection with who we truly are and what we came here to be, to do, and to have. And I know that our guest will be talking a little bit more about that in a few moments. So the intention for today, let's set an intention today. So I have my oracle cards as I had last time, and let's give them a little shuffle and a pull. And today's card is called Opening to Discovery. I don't know if you can see that. Looks a little strange with that little circle in the middle. It's called Open to Discovery. So let me read you about what that is. Open to discovery, we tune into information from our outer environment and then assign meaning to it within our psyche. That's how we create meaning in the world. Every day, however, the amount of data that we sort through exceeds what we're capable of processing, especially since the advent of the internet, when we've been bombarded by more than we could ever hope to absorb. Therefore, it's important to be mindful of what we expose ourselves to. And I think that's really relevant with what's going on in the world at the moment. We really need to be our own gatekeepers about what we're exposing ourselves to. Consistent exposure to unhealthy messages invites us to become cynical, fear-based. Whereas on the other hand, conscious exposure to information to support our well-being shifts us towards both growth and expansion. Today, be open to receiving important information that may come from an unusual source. Expect a message from the universe, and you shall have it. What a wonderful card. And so now I'm going to take just a moment, and I hope you stay with us as we'll be back in a minute or so. Back here on W4WN. And thanks for staying with us in the break. Hi, welcome back. You're listening at the Edge of Fulfillment. That's W4WN.com and Talk4TV.com as well. So welcome back. Let's recap a little bit. We're running a contest today for an Amazon gift card. And so far, we've had a couple of the words. There are 5 words. And we've had a couple of the special words that you need to keep track of through the show. We have not yet introduced our guest. And our guest is the one who sponsored the Amazon gift card. So we will definitely thank her. And for those who are just tuning in, I'm going to give you a little bit of a break and give you the first couple of words. So the first couple of words, the first one was magic, and the second one was passion. So let's continue to listen throughout the show and listen for the other 3 words as we introduce our guest today. And I'd really delighted to welcome our guest. And today she is going to be sharing some tips and ideas for motivation to create a new types of opportunities because she believes that we simply need to show up authentically. And it's my pleasure to introduce and to welcome Cameasha Muhammad to the show. Come on in, Cameasha. Hello, Cameasha. Looks like you're muted. Well, welcome. There we are. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing okay. How are you this morning?
Good to see you. I don't have any sound at the moment, but I'm not sure if our listeners do. So I'm hoping that our listeners do, and
Can
I'm
you hear
not
me?
sure whether you're frozen on screen or not, but
I
hopefully
can
with
hear
the
you
magic of
perfectly. Can you hear
technology,
me?
our wonderful producer can help us out with that. One of the things that our guests or our
Are you able
listeners
to hear
might
me?
not know about our guest is that Cameasha has a very interesting background, and her credentials include something called forensic psychology. Now, I originally thought that meant, like taking apart dead people because that's what I know about forensics. But I think if Cameasha gets an opportunity, she'll be able to tell us that there's a little more behind that story and that it has nothing to do with psychologically taking apart, people.
Okay. So we just got a comment that said that
Let's see if
you all can hear me.
can
Lorraine,
somebody
can
give
you
me a
hear
thumbs
me?
up or a yes if we can hear Cameasha. Are we able to hear Cameasha?
Okay, so is that you guys can hear me or you guys can hear just Lorraine?
I'm not seeing any thumbs up at this point, but it looks like we might be having some issues with sound and signal today. Sometimes the universe aligns and or doesn't align and allow us to broadcast things uh, as easily at one time as we can another time. So, but Cameasha, I'll just keep talking and telling you a little bit about her if we can get these things sorted out. Cameasha is somebody who works with a lot of women to well, let me see if I can put it succinctly. She loves to help people beat procrastination and to build their confidence. And Cameasha is somebody who has great impact on people when they are working to find their life purpose. And actually, that is our third word. If you want to jot that word down, the third word for our secret Amazon gift contest today is the word impact. So that would be our third word. And Cameasha is the founder of a company that she calls Confident Purposeful Impact. Yeah, I'm going to read you her bio because it's very interesting. She helps women who now are meant for more to be confident and embrace those who want to be more authentic so they can live into their purpose, live without barriers, excuses, or feeling stuck and alone. And she does this by creating, planning, and executing your vision with intentional action. Cameasha, are you able to come on now? Are we able to hear you?
I am on. I'm just not sure if you can hear me.
It seems like people are able to hear you, but I'm not able to hear you. So can I just get
Yes, I think
verification
that's
that
what's going
that's
on.
correct? So it's going to be a one-sided conversation.
I'm not sure what's going on.
So, Cameasha, you go right ahead and introduce yourself. And when you are ready for me to ask you a question, just give me a thumbs up. And I won't have a clue what you said, but but I can ask you the next question, and you can share with our
Oh,
audience. Because
wow.
what's most important is actually our audience, and and not me in particular. And I really want to highlight you today. So go ahead and tell our audience about yourself. What really lights you up?
Hi. Well, you guys are hearing me, which means that you guys can hear me. So I'm Cameasha. I am a certified transformation coach and behavior consultant. Also, I do have a master's in forensic psychology, like Lorraine said, and it is not the study of dead people. It deals more with behavior, and it's geared towards psychology and the law. So I focus on how people can change their behaviors and the likelihood that they will or can change. Um, so I asked what lights me up. So right now, one of the things that light me up is I'm a new mom, and that's one of those things, but also being able to help other people fulfill what they want to do in life and be very authentic doing it and be confident in being authentic and embracing who they are versus going along with everyone else because that's the norm. I like to help people break through those walls and just be free to be who they are. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. One of the other things that Lorraine brought up about me in being a coach is about having that she brought up at the beginning of the show about being a coach is having purpose and impact. And that's one of the things that I really focus on is impacting your own life first. And that's why I focus on you being authentic and being able to be who you are, because then you can impact your own life because you're focused on who you are. When you focus on who you are and where you want to go, you are able to impact your own life first, becoming the best version of yourself. And when you're the best version of yourself, you can help those around you and also yourself. When you are not being the best you, then you're not able to bring people into your purpose. And the topic today was blazing the path to your purpose, where we can move forward and use your passion to ignite your purpose. Are we back, Lorraine? Can you hear me now? Lorraine, you're muted.
There
Can
we
you hear me
go.
now?
Yes,
Okay, great. Because I was like, they're saying that you hear me, but you can't
it
hear
truly
me.
is the magical technology. You're in, you're out, you're up, you're down. You've got sound, you have no sound. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for that
Because
introduction, Kanisha.
I know they can hear me, but you can't. With that,
So
see technology. It's okay.
sometimes I think these things happen so that we have an appreciation for when things work smoothly. You know,
Yeah.
it's not until things are hiccuping in our life that we really have that appreciation for when things work well. So I'm so grateful for having this hiccup and for learning a little bit more about the technology today. But it's great to have you here. Thank you, Cameasha. And
Yeah, thank you for having me. I know you didn't hear that earlier when I said thank you for having me.
I can't wait to listen to the replay. Technical gremlins. Yes, John, absolutely. Thanks for being there, honey. So can you tell me, like, let's I just want to get serious for just a little bit. Did you get a chance to talk about forensic psychology and what that is? Did I miss
Yes,
that?
yes. So I did say that it is not the study of dead people. It is It is definitely psychology and the law, and it's more about behavior. They do use it a lot in prisons, but also in child welfare cases. But I use it to just focus on the behavior, because it's the person's likelihood, their patterns, how they have a likelihood to change, or if their behavior patterns will remain the same. So that's why I use it in my coaching.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming in really handy and very helpful because our behavior, so much of our behavior is subconscious and based on the patterns that we develop when we're very young.
Yes.
So I would imagine that forensic psychology is really helpful for that.
It
So in
is. It's definitely it's very helpful, especially in building confidence, because a lot of times confidence is instilled. A lot of people can believe you're born with confidence. I believe you're born fearless, and then you gain fears as you go. But confidence is instilled, and it is a learned behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that this is something that you wished that you had known years ago that you now know? Um, in terms of our behavior and yet John just mentioned that this is also something that parents instill. So we pattern
Mhm.
ourselves, I would think. Can you say some more about that, about how we pattern ourselves on after
Yeah.
our parents and what we learn when we're young?
Yeah, so your environment has a lot to do with your patterns and behaviors, because you are definitely following the behaviors of the people who are your, I want to say your parents, your aunts, uncles, all the adults in your life as a child. They are they're your model. So if you're in an environment, and in that environment you weren't taught to be confident, or you weren't taught to go for what you want, and that wasn't instilled in you from when you were younger to as you're growing up, then when you're older, you seek that out later, and you don't have that natural ability to just be confident and go for who you are. It has to come from someone. A lot of times kids get it outside of the home. So they get it at school. They have a teacher, a coach. And so that's why it's so very important to be involved in school. But a lot of times some kids are not involved at school because that at home they weren't taught and modeled behind to go into the school and get and actually get into groups and programs. They weren't taught to do that. So a lot of it is just who's in your life. And I think it's very important for everyone to have that role model. And it can be at home, but a lot of times it's outside the home.
Yeah, and as you probably recall, I think I mentioned to you at one point in a previous conversation, I used to be a principal and a teacher, and that's something that
Mm-hmm.
we saw at school. In my school, what I said is that we had champions. So we tried to make sure that every child had an adult in the school that they could go to who was not their teacher, because quite often their teacher is grading them and evaluating them, and so that requires some
Yeah,
judgment. But we tried to set up a
yeah,
championship so that every child had an adult that they could go to without judgment and ask questions or blow off steam or tell them how they were feel, or help them solve a problem. And that was really effective. I think what I heard you
yeah,
saying was that super important to growing up in and being well adjusted and being able to function well. So yeah. So I'm curious to get where you are right now. What did you have to leave anything behind in your life?
Oh, did I? Yes.
Is that a loaded question
So
for you?
yeah, I started out in the field of psychology and criminal justice. My undergrad degree is in criminal justice. So I started out in that field in human services, and I found that it was very stressful. Like the more you wanted to help, the more you wanted to do you got a lot of pushback, because there are policies and procedures, but a lot of times for it to feel like they're doing something, they would move away from those policies and procedures, but I'm a person who follows the policy and procedures. So it was a very stressful atmosphere for me where bending the rules didn't suit me because you're dealing with children. And that made me move away from the entire that entire industry and not move away as in I left it behind, move away from working within it and wanting to work above it and be able to help with the policies and making sure they're being implemented, because that's very important, because they're there for a reason. There's a reason why there's a policy and a procedure when you're dealing with, especially when you're dealing with children. And so I left behind work. I thought about it many years later, like I really want to get back into it. It was a passing thought. It was a passing thought. Like I want to go back and I want to work in it, but then I didn't. So I would get somewhere, you know, they promise you things. They're like, oh, it's great. It's going to be like what you're looking for. But when you get in there and really get in and then you see the inner workings, it's like, okay, you guys got me. You got me. So I kind of strayed away from that. And then along the way, I also had to, in becoming who you are and me in becoming who I was, sometimes you have to leave people behind. So there was also that, being able to leave people behind, which is really hard, especially when it's people that you really cared about. But and able to become who you are and really move along in life, sometimes you have to be able to let go. And that's one of those harder things, even when working with my clients, is the letting go part.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any of our listeners. I mean, you said two things that really tweaked my mind at that point, and one of them was that sometimes we get promised, like when we're young, if we work hard and we go to school and we graduate and with good grades, then we'll get this job, and this job will somehow miraculously solve all of our issues and fulfill us.
Yes.
And then we get into this job and we don't find fulfillment. And then sometimes we're told the other piece of it, of course, is, you know, if when you grow up and you find Prince Charming or Princess Charming, whichever you prefer, but when you'll find this other person and they will become everything for you and do everything for you, and they will love you and make you feel wonderful. And that too can be a massive source of stress for people.
That's definitely true. Definitely true. And I believe everyone is like, now it's changing, but before it's like, go to school, graduate, go to college, get a job, work in that job, and then they don't tell you the behind the scenes that maybe that job might be there, but when you get to that job, it's not as great as you thought it was going to be, because you see the surface things and you don't see what's deeper and within those companies and what's going on. And you think that you are fulfilled. Sometimes it feels like it, but you have that little nagging that's like, I know there's more. There has to be more to this. And then they don't tell you about all of those student loan bills. And especially for me, I think about that all the time. I went to private undergrad and private graduate school. So that was like super expensive. And you're spending all of that money to possibly get a job where you're not going to be able to pay back that money. Or when you're paying it back, it's like, was this really worth it? Did I really get out of it what I wanted to get out of it? So I totally relate with that.
It looks like we had another little technical glitch here. I'm just wondering if there are any of our listeners who are resonating with this, and if you are, just say yes in the chat. And maybe if you've got something that resonated for you, and there's part that you were told about life that you thought would be so wonderful, and then once you get into it, you realize that it's not the fulfillment that you had desired. It's not the fulfillment that you thought you were going to have. Or I also love to hear from our listeners if it's the opposite. If you manage to find something, like there are some people, if I can share this story just briefly with you, Cameasha. My father was a supervisor on Metro Ambulance for years, and his statement was always, and I can say this now that he's passed away, but he used to say, don't tell anybody, but I'd go to work even if they didn't pay me. He loved his job. He loved helping people and serving people. So I'd love to hear from our listeners if there are people who are also experiencing that as well. And have you ever come across people that you've worked with that have one part of their life that's working so well, and yet you're helping with another part of their life that perhaps isn't? Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear the full question.
Sure.
It glitched a little bit.
Yeah, there's, it was partly my story, but there are people that, come and see you, I'm imagining, as for coaching, where one part of their life is working so brilliantly well and another part of their life just isn't. And
Oh, yeah.
is that typical of the people that you serve, the people that you see?
Definitely. Sometimes the personal relationships are going really well, but they're not fulfilled in their work, or if they have a business and they're starting a business, or it's the opposite. Like it's going really well at work and business is going really well, but they're having issues in their personal life or personal relationships. And a lot of times I'm finding that that's happening because it's a separate thing for everybody. A lot of times people separate parts of their life, they compartmentalize parts of their life when they really need to integrate it and be able to say, okay, I need to know how much attention needs to be to personal, how much attention needs to be to business, and be able to handle those areas in a way where they're giving enough attention to where that attention needs to be. And I see it happen all the time. Like it's even happened in my own life where it's like focus is on one thing and like you're like really, really going, but then other parts, it's like, okay, that's not going so well, but it's because all of my focus is over here. When if I say, okay, my personal relationships, I don't just mean like with your spouse or your home, I just mean in general with personal relationships, I need to give this amount of time and I need to know how to give that time. And that's what I use the DISC assessment for too. When I'm helping them, is I'm able to see, okay, what's their superpower and why certain behaviors are the way that they are, and say, okay, this is your goal, and this is the reason why you're having a little trouble getting to that goal, because you are trying to do X, Y, Z when you should be doing X, Y, Z, because that's not really your superpower, but this is.
Yeah. So you mentioned there's an assessment that you use. I think you mentioned it was DISC assessment, and that helps.
Yes.
That helps people identify their strengths and their needs, or their strengths and you said their superpowers.
Yes.
And
yes.
so can they use those superpowers in a particular way to improve their lives?
Yes, so they definitely can. Once you find out what that superpower is or what your natural preference is, then you're able to say, okay, this is what I'm really good at, and this is what I should focus on. And with my limitations, I can improve them, or I can find somebody else that has that strong suit to help me in business or my personal relationships, or someone in your personal relationship might have that strength that you have a limitation on, and being able to understand how to effectively communicate using it and how to effectively give someone what they need, not what you want to give them. As a lot of times in communication and behavior, you want to help somebody how you want to help them when you should be helping them how they need to be helped.
Yeah, yeah. And so one of the things that I know that you talk a lot about is authenticity, and how to be, how to show up authentically. And if I can just pop in for just a moment,
Yeah.
that is our fourth word. So if you're keeping track, listeners, there you go. You've got number 4, and number 4, the word is authentic. So go ahead and if you would, Cameasha, talk a little bit more about authenticity and how we show up as our authentic selves.
Okay, so showing up as who you are is sometimes hard when you don't have the clarity and understand that it's okay to just be you. A lot of times we have a need to belong, like a human need to just belong. And sometimes you hold back some parts of you because you're afraid or you have fear that if they see this part of you, they might not relate, they might not want you around. Whereas when you're just fully who you are, you attract your own people, you create your own tribe, you fit in where you belong versus hiding parts of yourself where you're adapting to what somebody else wants to see you as instead of showing up as who you really are. And part of the assessment helps with that. Once you know that superpower, you're able to really lean in and hone into it and be who you are authentically, because it also shows you where you're adapting at. It shows you your adaptive behaviors and it shows you your natural behaviors. And if you're adapting a lot, you're literally being a completely different person depending on how much you're adapting. You're not being who you are, you're being like a person. I call it like an actor, like you're acting in a movie in your own life when you can just show up as you, which is going to be way less stressful because you don't have to pretend. It's just what comes naturally, instead of having moments where you have to remember how you were acting, remember what you said before, remember these things that are not necessarily who you are. You have to keep up with all of that. Whereas if you're just being who you are, you get to wake up, step out of your bed, go outside of your house and just be free. I say that when you're confident, purposeful, and you have impact, that creates your authenticity and it creates a freedom. It creates a sense of freedom to not have to adapt and just be what someone else wants you to be. Like it creates a freedom to just go and enjoy life. And that's where that fulfillment comes from, when you're out here being you.
Yeah, and actually, Angela Orr just had, she just mentioned honesty sets you free. But she just mentioned that she was raised that you didn't have to like your job, just be there for the money. And she tells her girls to do what they love and not to worry about the money. And that is such a different message, isn't it? Just such a different message. So thank you for that, Angela. Yeah, lead with your heart. That's what I'm hearing you say too, Cameasha, is lead with your heart, and then others will follow. Awesome. Just wonderful. And we're just going to take a little break and stay with us we'll be back in just a moment. Back here on W4WN, The Edge of Fulfillment. So we'll see you right back. And here we are back with our guest, Cameasha Muhammad, and this is Edge of Fulfillment on the Women for Women Network. That's W4WN.com and Talk for TV, which is talk4tv.com. So welcome back, and nice to have you again, Cameasha. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is you have a really cool tagline, which is related to our fifth word. That people have been waiting to hear. So do you want to tell us about that fifth word? Do you remember what that was?
I want to believe I remember what it was. And I believe I've already said it.
If I say the word cocky, number one, have I got everybody's attention? And number two, it's related to that. So go ahead and tell her. Listen, you have a program called...
Yeah, I have a statement apparel and brand called Confident, Not Cocky. And so that last word, I'm pretty sure is confident, even though I'm pretty sure I said it multiple times. So the last word is confident. So I do have a statement apparel, and not just apparel, it has like pillows, just different things, but it's called Confident Not Cocky. And I ended up creating the brand for women, but honestly, men wear it too much because my husband likes the shirts as well. And he wears them. But it's about, being able to be confident without being called cocky. Like when women are confident in what they do and who they are, it can be seen as cocky. But I feel like when men do the same thing, it's like they're just being confident and going for what they want. But when women do it, we're called cocky, like we're stepping into something where we don't belong. But so I was just like, look, it's confidence, it's not cocky. You know what I'm saying? If I want to be a little cocky, that's okay too. But but it's about being confident and being who you are. So confident, not cocky. And I'm also giving away, should I tell them since we're already talking about it?
Yeah, please.
So I'll be giving away some goodies, a couple of t-shirts and some goodies from the Confident Not Cocky line. And we're running a contest in lieu of the along with the Amazon gift card for having all of the 5 words. For having all of the 5 words. But I'll be giving away a couple of the shirts. Like the one I have on, it says Confident Not Cocky. You can see it back on the mannequin as well. And one of the paint splash Confident Not Cocky shirts, and then one of the originals, like what I have on. And the way to get it is by going to www.impactme.live/a-chat. And I'll be drawing a couple of winners from that.
Awesome. So maybe we can have that put up on screen if I can find a way to get that in. It was, can you say it again?
www.impactme.live/a-chat.
A-chat. Okay. And hopefully that we can get that up there. So that sounds wonderful. And did I hear you say that you're giving away some assessments that people can access through that?
Yes. So when you go to www.impactme.live/a-chat, I'll drop it in the chat too as well in a second. When you go there, I'll be giving away 25 free assessments, and you'll be able to find out your dominant personality preference type. And when you take the assessment, you'll be able to get your dominant personality type and how it applies to your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. And it'll be able to tell you a little bit about what your superpower is, and why you are how you are, and how to use it to your advantage.
Awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I'm trying to drop it in the chat myself and not doing a very good job of it. So maybe we can get somebody on this side. Oh, you've got it in the chat. That's good. Because I was there. It is.
It's dropped in the chat a lot of times.
Awesome. And I noticed earlier that John mentioned the tag you're cocky, and he was not being cocky. When we lived in Australia for a little while, they have lots of cockatoos and cockatiels flying around, and they get tagged. Oh. And it's quite a common saying to tag your cocky. So,
so
of course, I took it completely the wrong way when I was there. Ah, dear. Anyway, I'm embarrassed, but what can I say? But thank you for those wonderful gifts, Cameasha. And at this point in our show, we've just got a few moments left. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to cover and to let our audience know?
No, I just really want to, reiterate what we were talking about in impacting your own life first and blazing the path to your purpose. Like, it's okay that at this point you may not feel fulfilled, and there's a reason for that. There's something that you want that you haven't just reached yet, and you just have to be able to step out and take a chance on yourself and say, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. It might be scared, but do it scared, because if it's not scary, it's probably not even worth it. The more fearful and afraid you are of it, the more you're going to get out of it. And on the other side of that, stepping into what you really want to do, you will be able to find that fulfillment that you're looking for, because you probably have that feeling that you know that you're meant for more. So step into your purpose and give those people that are waiting on your purpose what you were put here for.
Yeah, I love that, because my own beliefs are that we are all here for a reason. That there's a
Mm,
reason why we decided to come to this place we call Earth, and that we have a purpose. And as I said at the top of the show, through no fault of our own, sometimes life happens and we lose contact with who we truly are. We lose
mhm.
contact, like stuff just piles on top and piles on top, and fulfillment is really discovery, that coming home to yourself and
Yes,
finding
yes,
what it is that is your peace, that causes that peace, the power, the passion, and your purpose. And you do such
yes.
wonderful work,
I love
Cameasha.
that.
And I want to thank you so much
Thank you.
for spending the time with us today, and for all of the information that you've given and these gifts that you've brought for the listeners. That's absolutely ideal. And at this point, listeners, we're at coming close to the end of our show. So please go ahead and in the comments, if you have those 5 magic words, oops, there's one, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we will do a draw. And if you're listening on radio, or you're driving in the car or something like that, then by all means email, and you can email them to me at support@headheartsynergy.com, and we will count them as a ballot as well. And next week, we will announce the winner of this week's Amazon gift card. And I also have an invitation for you. If you'd like to meet with and connect with and feel that sense of belonging, then join a like-minded group of us, of people like us, in the Facebook group called Mindfully Moving Forward. And we take a deep dive, or we'll take a deep dive into the ideas and further discussions, and it's a warm and private community where you can be accepted and ask your questions. Just like I was saying about kids at school, they need that champion. Well, let us be your champion. Let us be your spot as well. That's in that Facebook group called Mindfully Moving Forward. And at this point, I want to say thank you so much, Cameasha. And we're bringing our show to an end. And thank you, listeners and watchers. This is The Edge of Fulfillment, W4WN, and it's saying goodbye for now. Thanks so much. Bye. You there?